Hey guys, I'm going to talk to you a minute before I start my radio broadcast for the week. And I just wanted to take a moment to visit with you and tell you that I am going through a time of stretching. Right now, as I record this, I'm in the midst of doing a community theater performance that involves a lot of stretching. There are dancing, there are moves, there are carrying things. And I had my shoulder surgery some weeks ago, so I'm still trying to work that into place. And so that means twice a week I'm doing therapy. Stretching is hard, whether you're taking a stretch in an experience or with a shoulder. And I guess my prayer for you, as I take time after my time with the radio to talk to you, is that God will use this to stretch you. All stretching really is coming as far as we can do it ourselves and then going through the pain of learning we are capable of more. When we are living for God, the only time it's a hard stretch is when we're trying to do it on our own. So my prayer for you, that this will be a good stretching experience to you as well. All right, we're going to get started on the radio now. Hi, this is Pastor Dave. Welcome to Persistent Hope. Each week it is my prayer that these brief 3-minute times together, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, will remind you you can have hope. When things are not going your way or you're facing difficulties, you can have hope. Now, if you've been listening, we have spent our first few weeks talking about God and who He is. Do you know how you view God will really affect how you view other people and how you view yourself? This week, we're going to talk and focus on the faithfulness of God. When I was growing up, I would have considered my dog Spunky the most faithful person in my life. In fact, do you know we get the phrase dog is man's best friend because it talks about the faithfulness of a pet? And you know where that comes from? It comes from a lawyer giving a speech to a jury many, many years ago when a farmer and his dog were being sued for damages. And the lawyer wanted to make his case to why you can't treat this person this way. You can't punish the dog. Listen to what he said about the farmer's dog. The one absolutely unselfish friend that man can have in this selfish world, the one that never proves ungrateful or treacherous, is his dog. When all other friends desert, he remains. He is as constant in his love as the sun in its journey through the heavens. Wow. Now, I've always had dogs and I love them, but I gotta tell you, their faithfulness has a lot to do with whether I'm holding a treat in my hand or whether I'm making them go out outside where it's cold to do their business. But God's faithfulness is different. God's faithfulness means He will never act different than who He is. He has always been and always will be God. Every new generation changes their understanding of who God is. And all the people in that generation base their view on what everyone else thinks God is. Now think about that. If the view of God changes all the time and people's understanding of God changes all the time, no wonder there is hopelessness in the world. You see, God is faithful. He doesn't change. In the Old Testament, in the book of Psalms, it says in Psalm 119:90, God, your faithfulness continues through all generations. You established the earth, and it endures. And another psalm, Psalm 146, verse 6, the maker of heaven and earth, the sea and everything in them, the Lord who remains faithful forever. You will never know hope that lasts. You will never know persistent hope until you come to know that God is faithful. A lot of things in our life are not faithful, and sometimes the very people we love have been proven to be unfaithful. But God is always faithful. So I have an assignment for you today. It might require a little stretch for you. I'm going to have you say a prayer, and you're not going to ask God for a thing. Are you ready? This is what I want you to pray. God, you are faithful. God, you are faithful. We'll talk more about His faithfulness on Wednesday. Have a great day. Okay, so you and I talk a little bit more about the faithfulness of God. We have to live with an absolute confidence that God doesn't change, that he is not inconsistent, that sometimes what he does is unfair or unjust. Now, we know that the Psalms is filled with examples of people lamenting, almost asking God, why? But we need to understand where that why comes from. God, why is this happening? If it's coming from a place that you doubt who he is, your problem is not what you're going through is difficult. Your problem is you're not seeing God for who he is. That's why we stay in the Word. That's why we stay in a relationship with him that is present tense. That's why you don't live from Sunday to Sunday or emotional high to emotional high. Because when the toughest things happen, that's when you find out if you've just been coasting. And I'll tell you what, if you're well thought of as a believer, if a lot of people say nice things about you, you can easily start to think, hey, you know what, I'm a pretty good Christian. That's not the case at all. In fact, you may find out that you weren't real deep, and when the hard times come, it's not that suddenly your faith in God has been weakened. It's that your faith was never that strong in the first place. And all the difficulty has done is reveal what was always there. Listen to Romans chapter 5, verse 3 through 5. But that's not all. We gladly suffer because we know that suffering helps us to endure. We gladly suffer because suffering helps us to endure. And endurance builds character, which gives us hope. You see, hope comes from the character that God builds within us and develops within us, not because things get better. That's what we gladly suffer because we know that suffering helps us to endure, and endurance builds character, which gives us hope, and hope that will never disappoint. All of this happens because God has given us the Holy Spirit who fills our heart with his love. Make sure, because you are called by God to live with hope in a world that has no hope. So if you're going through a hard time, let me remind you of Psalm 62, verse 5. Let all that I am wait patiently before God, for my hope is in him. He alone is my rock and my salvation, my fortress. I will not be shaken. Live with hope. God bless you.